Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. Today, we will be talking about fast jigging rods. This is part of the Fast Jigging 101 series of videos. And if you want to watch the whole series, there's a playlist in the description below. Also, some very useful videos that talk about these things in depth also in the description below. If you are new to the channel, this channel talks about the hows and whys of fishing. We cover everything from big game, ultralight, everything in the middle, including fly fishing. And today we are talking about fast jigging rods. Now, this is a very basic overview of rods, and I will show you three examples that I have here. Okay, so one spinning and two overheads. Now, these three are in no means expensive rods. Probably this one would cost uh, a bit, and then this one, and then this one. Okay, so let's talk about the advantages of uh, the spinning system and the weights of the rods that I have as examples here. Why I chose them. Okay, and then there's a video that I'm going to show you as well of I think two of these rods in action. Okay, and also I am in by no means endorsing these rods. Okay, there are better rods, and then conversely, you have to understand that because this sort of method has been around for some time, there are a lot of variations, and some, like take for example, the ones that are made in China have actually kind of gone mainstream. Okay, and they're not bad. They're not bad. Okay. Okay. So now let's talk about what the rod does first. Okay, and I think that's something that you're gonna have to kind of really understand. So for fast jigging in general, okay, the rods serve few purposes. One, it is a medium that moves the jig. So I don't wanna. So the jig, okay, their uh, main purpose of the rod is to give the jig the uh, the momentum to go up and in that position, the horizontal. Okay, and then the jig will do either of the two or a combination of the two. Okay, so it would either move like that and go up. Okay, so uh, actually, you know what? Let me show you exactly what I mean here. Okay, and for that, I am going to uh, go to and go to what do you call this the illustration here. All right, and okay, so um, looking at the illustration here, this is the boat. Okay, now for fast jigging specifically, when you drop your jig, it goes straight down. Okay, very very fast. Okay, so go straight down like that. Okay, now the jig will have uh, an action of remember, for fast jigging, it's the action going up. So the jig, from the time it falls, okay, uh, let's say from the time it falls, that would be our what line is it? Black. Well, we'll make it red. Okay. Um, there we go. Whoa. There. So from the time it drops, the red. Okay. There you go. So the red line is your drop. It's not really like that, but you know. Now, your when you're jigging it up, the jig will have its action. Okay, so it's either it will have a zigzag action, and trust me, it's more like this more than anything else. Okay, and then because even if you're even if you're jigging it fast, you know you're going to be inconsistent. So it's not like 100% zigzag. Okay, so something like this. Now, um, it's either going to have that action or it will have a, let's say, okay, let's color that's black and then let's do blue on the other one. Um, okay, so it could be that from the bottom, hold on. So remember, this is going up. Okay, now from the bottom, okay, we go up. It could be a sliding motion. So when it slides, it's more like this, like that. Okay, so it's a wide zigzag. Okay, and kind of like an S curve and all that. It could be that it's longer. It could be that it's short. Again, this is very inconsistent, and it's not something that what do you call this? It's not something that is set in stone. So the pattern would be something like that. Then there's something that's kind of in between. Okay, so uh, like that, and then you know zigzags, and then a bit of slide, zigzag, a bit of slide. So those are the three predominant actions of kind of like the jig. So as a standard, it would be like these three. Now, the rod has a lot to do with the action of these jigs, and good rods actually give you a lot more of these three than bad ones. Okay, and I have had examples of like really bad ones in my lifetime, and you know kind of important that when you're actually choosing the rod that it would be able to do this. Now remember that for fast jigging, it's kind of the reverse of what slow jigging is. So if slow jigging would be like kind of fragile, this is kind of on the power side. Now it doesn't mean to say that you can manhandle them as as you want. There's still limits to the rods. But if you want to pull back on fish, especially when they're active, okay, especially when they're active, fast jigging is the way to go. And the rod is the vehicle for that. I think one of the biggest pitfalls that people are subjected to, experienced or unexperienced, is the fact that uh, people tend to kind of overestimate what they really need. And uh, I'm very guilty of this in the past. And although when I came down to the UAE, I was already experienced with some jigging and casting, lure fishing, and all that. I was kind of already well versed, especially with trolling and stuff. So I knew, basically, I knew what I was doing. But see, here's the thing: when especially approaching place like this where I kind of didn't know what was going on and all that, I tended to kind of choose gear that was over what was required. Okay, so uh, you'll find that that I was using, and I'm not ashamed to say this, I was using 50-pound test. Okay, now we could see here. Now I was using 50-pound test to uh, to uh, okay, I'm trying to zoom in to this picture. There we go. So I've tried like uh I fished 50-pound test, and I was fishing in water that was 20 meters or so, probably shallower. Okay, 50-pound test. And I mean, look at the date. It says 2006. This is December 29, 2006, when I took this picture, and we just come back from a trip. And I mean, these are pretty good spangled emperors, but that's a 100-gram jig, and I was using 50-pound test, you know, and although it worked, looking back, I could have probably caught more, and I've probably caught even more quality fish if I actually used the right gear. Um, I mean, I remember actually, even with the well, I was using really thick line, so there was no way for me to actually um, use anything that was lighter. But had I known that I could have actually used like thinner lines, smaller jigs, and all that, it would have made my experience better. So that is it. One of the biggest things um, that a lot of people tend to tend to get wrong, okay, is the fact that they buy gear that might be too much for the place that they're planning to use it for. Now, in Fujairah, realistically speaking, we don't go over about 200 meters, 250 meters when it comes to fast jigging. We could go deeper for slow jigging, okay? But think about this, when you're fast jigging, you're dropping down real deep, okay? And then you're jigging, bang, 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 bang. That is strenuous, okay? That's mechanically doing that, okay? Now, there are some techniques, of course, that you just go, okay, bang, bang, okay? So like the fallings method, okay, which is so this is easy like that, and then you go boom, reel, boom, okay, and then you drop it down, and then bang, right? So um, it's it's something that would help you, but it's still strenuous, not like slow jigging where you kind of uh, take it easy, so your strokes might be deliberate, but you're going, it's um, less strenuous, less impact on the body. Whereas when you're fast jigging, you're really, you know, moving. Okay. So remember that for fast jigs, the action is going up. So whether you like it or not, you're going to have to wind and pump. So, the combination of you actually winding and pumping, it's not, you know, even if you're doing it, say, slower like that, or, you're doing that, okay, it's still going to put a strain, or it's still going to put more strain on your body. Now, think about this. You have like a 500-gram jig, and you have a heavy rod, a heavy reel. You're fighting that, and then a fish bites, boom. And, when you're jigging, the bite is usually when you're pumping. And once you get hit, boom. So you're fighting the gear, you're fighting the fish, you're fighting the jig on the way up, and all that doesn't really help if everything is heavy. So again, it goes back to lighter stuff. Okay. And this is the segue. Okay, this is where it varies: Chinese made and Japanese made. Now, I wouldn't say Japanese made because the one that I went with isn't even made in Japan. So this is the Chinese made rod that I have been using. And guess what? I'm going to show you a video now of this this rod being used. See, here's the thing. Um, Even if this rod is, okay, where is it? It's in downloads. So even if this rod is actually something that's kind of heavy, and you know, it's uh it's uh it's literally something that's kind of old school. Um, it works. Okay. Now this rod is cheap. It's very cheap. I think I paid 500 dirhams for it, probably less. Okay, and it's not a bad rod. So I paired this. If you could see in the video, I paired this with an accurate Fury. And before I make the video on reels, I have to find that reel. Actually, hopefully it's just somewhere easy for me to get to. But paired this with an accurate reel and switched the handle on it, and it made it easier to use. So with the reel, this was actually quite light and was very easy to use. And my gosh, I've caught some fish on it, some really good fish, and it worked. However, um, I upgraded to an even lighter rod, and my God, this rod is really light. And at first, the composite uh, handle kind of turned me off. But I said, like, you know what? If it breaks, it breaks. Let's just try it out. And guess what? Um, it works. This is actually tougher than it looks. Okay, so I'll say it now. The very first thing that put me off with this rod is the reel seat, and I have yet to break it, and it has caught me some fish. Okay, now this is also a 300-gram rod. Okay, max 300, and yeah, 180 to 300 grams. And usually this is also 6 feet. And usually what I do is max this out. So I always use PE4 for this. Okay, so maximum 300-gram. And if you are curious, this is the giant killing from Major Craft. This is the 5th generation, and the model is there. Okay, so very good rod, and I pair it with this. This is my combo right here. Want to hear a messed up story? So I had this at the back of the boat, and then the line was actually out of the reel, and then the line got stripped. So this combo is actually quite light, lighter than this combo that I have here. And um, yeah, the components of this is actually really good. This is the Ikuda online, okay? And this is again rated for PE 3 to 6, whereas this one, and maximum 300 grams, this one is rated uh, PE 2 to 4. And what this is also is, if you could see, is that the tip is same 300-gram rod. The tip, and this is what differs with the Chinese and the Japanese design. Okay, so if you see the tips of these rods, this is also slightly longer. The Major Craft, the uh, the Ikuda is actually shorter. So if you look at the tips of these rods here, okay, let me see here. It's gosh. There you go. All right. So if you look at that, Okay, that compared to this, you'll see that there's a definite difference in the tip size. And guess what I found? This actually gives the rod more of well, it kind of helps me with the action. Okay, so uh, Japanese rods tend to help you out with the action of the jig, and Chinese rods. What I found is that they actually pull the fish more. So that's kind of like the difference in the basic design or the design concept of Japanese versus Chinese rods. Now, it kind of depends on you. I could also pull back on this, obviously, because that's what's it's designed for. But I would say that the chances of me actually snapping this, okay, it would be higher than with this. Okay, and guess what? Um, if I snap this, I wouldn't care. This is cheaper. This is cheaper than the Major Craft. But see, here's the thing. And by the way, I'm not sponsored by Major Craft. Okay, I'm sponsored by Studio Ocean Mark. I'm not sponsored by Major Craft. I have a lot of Major Craft gear because I like the price, and lately the uh, the designs and I would say the weights of their rods are actually really good. It doesn't mean to say that I don't have, higher priced Japanese made rods. Just that, these, I've started to use these because guess what? They've caught up. And at the end of the day, I don't need to spend more than I should. And neither should you. So it becomes a coin toss. Okay. Now, as a standard, I would say that if you have, let's say, a good reel like a Stella, okay, Stella or a Twin Power, a Saltiga or a Catalina, look for something standard like this. Okay. Because you don't want to mess around. Okay. If you can afford the Stella, if you can afford the Saltiga, Twin Power, or a, what do you call this? A Catalina, get a game type J for Shimano users, or whatever the Daiwa equivalent is. Okay, that's probably the best advice I could give you. And um, if you're looking for something that's a bit on the price, what do you call this? Prices that are kind of reasonable. Okay, and if you want Japanese quality that's not really there to break the bank, a giant killing from Major Craft would be good. But again, for a few years I was equally at home as something with something that's Chinese made, and I found to be quite surprising as Ikuda. But here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, now I'm gonna show this to you guys because this is very important. Okay, so check this out. So, okay, you see that? Okay, that matters a lot. So when you look at this, I'm splining it, and boom, it's splined correctly. The problem with Chinese rods, it's always hit and miss because the production that they have, they don't necessarily spline them correctly. Now, imagine me going to the shop. Okay, I went to the shop to buy this, and it wasn't planned. I went, and I went through, no joke, 20 rods, and the guy, he didn't know what I was up to. I said, like, okay, I'm gonna buy, but I want to choose. So I chose, and he was just standing there, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm looking for what's ideal for me." That's all I said. And I bought two. Okay, one was a bit heavier than this. Okay, because whether I like it or not, uh, there will be a time when I will use that. But see, here's the thing, right? I have that on reserve, and it's a 500-gram rod. Okay, I have that on reserve. Um, I know I'm gonna use it eventually, but I didn't spend a lot for it. Okay, now that rod pairs up with an L80, but I'm not gonna use that rod a lot. But I know that when I need it, like take for example, there's a run of big tuna in Fujairah, okay, and I need to use like a P8 or something like that. That's the rod I'm gonna take, okay, and fill the L80 with like I don't know, P7 or P8, and then I could go after those tuna, no problem, okay. Let's say 50 kg tuna or something like that, and they're eating something big, right? So I have that rod to use, but again, it's a spare rod, and I didn't spend a lot on it, and that's very important. Okay, so when you're buying a rod, always think about what you're going to be catching the most. Now, in Fujairah, um, realistically speaking, there will be a lot of uh, 10, 15 kg fish. They're a lot more lower than that. That would be 8, 5, even smaller. At the same time, and Faisal, Faisal will have stories for you guys if, what do you call this? If um, one time, when he's back home, let's let's do a session with him, and then we'll just hang out and talk. But there was a time when we actually saw like this really big, what was it? I think it was a dorado, and it was the biggest dorado we've ever seen in our lives. Like, this thing was big. It was so big we thought it was something else. Okay, now why is this relevant to the a jigging video? He had an amberjack on a fast jigging rod, and the dorado tried to eat the amberjack. Okay, so um, there's a there's some exceptional fish that we could target with the gear, and they're rare. We didn't catch that fish, by the way. So they're rare. Okay, literally, these are when, exceptional, and we don't get a lot of them. So it doesn't make sense for you guys to actually invest on something that maybe is there. Okay, so for us, maximum 300, and then it can comfortably catch fish of up to 20, easy. Okay, easy. And I think Wael has actually caught an amberjack of about 20 kg with a rod that's lighter, and that was with a Stella 6000 as well. So this pairs up with a an 8000. This is a game type slow J, max 300 grams. Okay, and it has max PE6. But I put PE4 on this and an 8000. Okay, now the thing is, I have a rod that's for lighter. Okay, maximum 200, and it is filled with PE3. And well, I have this. Okay, it's a 6000. So pair it up with another rod and max 200, and it is actually more comfortable than this one. Okay, so majority of the time, if we're using something that's 150, let's say, I have a smaller combo for that with a 5000 sized reel, and probably that, as a fast jigging outfit, that sees a lot more action these days than these. And anything heavier, I use slow jigging. Okay, so either, I mean, especially when the fish are not active, but when the fish are active, we reach for the especially when we're fishing for longtail tuna, and then they're kind of weird. I have several videos of us actually fishing for them, and they're kind of in a weird state. The silver bullet that we found would be jigs 150 grams and lower, and drop down to whatever level they are plus 10 meters. So if they're at, let's say, 70 meters max, we can see it in the sounder, what we do. And these are, remember, these are 150 gram or 200 gram max rods. Sometimes it's probably better if we had like 5,000 size reels instead of 6,000 for these fish. And they're not awfully big. You know, they're probably max 15 at the very most. You know, majority would be 8. So even with that, and then PE 2.5 or something, PE 2.5, it's lots of fun. So if majority of the time we're just after those fish and that kind of size, there's really no need for us to actually go up to a 300. Okay, so these rods have not seen a lot of action for some time. Okay, and in fact, I think the last time I used this rod right here was in the video that I showed you earlier. Uh, you know, it's been a while, and there's a reason that why we actually scaled down. Now, the more pressured the place is, it's either you're switching towards slow jigging or you're actually kind of shrinking things down. Okay, and you don't need thicker line for that. Okay, now here's the thing: we are talking about jigs the size of this, and this is a 200. Now remember, there are tungsten jigs now that are literally half the size with the same weight. And with that, you don't need to use the same line. You can actually drop things down, and use smaller jigs, smaller line, lighter gear, and then boom. So yeah, okay. If you just want a rod that you could use, let's say, uh, almost anywhere, a PE4 rod with a max, okay, PE4 range. So, this one's up to 6, but PE4 is comfortably in the middle. So this is a 3 to 6. The other rod is a 2 to 4. And majority of the time I use 4 on this. This is this gives me a bit more comfort, okay, and this gives me a bit more help when it comes to actually making the jig work. So the rod matters what with the action, okay, giving the action on the jig. Now, if I want more pulling power, I choose this. If let's say I want more responses from fish, I would be using this. And as I mentioned, I've replaced this with this rod. Okay, so I'm probably gonna get rid of this soon. Game type J is there. Okay, and I promised that we were gonna talk about this. So when you're using conventional reels, you can reel straight the whole time. Okay, what I mean by that is that because of how it's done, like how the makeup is, you can just jig the whole time and you won't stop because it's like a mini winch, and the power transmission from the reel to the line is actually direct. Now remember that you're reeling straight from the spool. So, okay. Now, the thing with spinning rods, even if you are right-handed and all this, it goes on an angle, okay? And that's a lever that's working against you. And although you can, okay, you tend to kind of stop each time you actually wind up, okay? So it kind of stops there. See, it stops. You can't really just wind bam, 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 bam like that, which makes it a lazy hack for long jigs, okay? Long jigs need a pause at the end of the stroke for the jig. Remember when I told you that it helps? So this is part of it. And what happens is that the jig gets pulled and then the jig needs to go like that. Now, unlike slow jigs, this needs a forward, it will have a forward slide. Okay, so it goes. Now, slow jigs that are sliding do the same thing, but guess what they do? They go like that. So it's when you give them slack. This is actually when you pull and pause. So boom, it goes like that. Okay. So remember, in the illustration that we had earlier, the action. Okay. So it goes up and it goes. Okay. So just like that. Boom, 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 boom. When you're pulling. Okay. So at the apex, you pause, goes like that. And then you'll feel it go down. You reel and then pump, and then it goes bang like that. So kind of like a walk the dog, but it goes. So your cadence, like I said earlier, the difference between modern jigs is that although you can like pump them like you have epilepsy, you don't have to anymore. Okay, so don't be like Wild. He jigs like he has epilepsy. We call it epileptic jigging. So when you're jigging too fast, what happens is that your jig tends to tumble, especially if your rod is too stiff. Your jigs tend to tumble, and if you have more than one hook, the chances of you snagging your leader is actually quite high. So, um, rods that have really good actions actually help you with the bounce. Now, this is long and asymmetrical. And what this does is that it does have a slide, but it has the added motion of um, like a flutter. And if you pull this up and let it go, what happens is that it goes like that, and then it flutters and slowly slides. So, um, again, with spinning rods, it's easier. Okay, you just pump, 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 and then open. And then they tend to have this, especially when you feel like it catches, and it's you'll feel it. Actually, there's a difference. It catches, and then you open, and then just so it acts kind of like a slow jig. So yeah, that's now. Here's the thing: when you get a bite on the slide, when it's backsliding, you're not gonna hook the fish because the hooks will be, obviously like that. Most of the time, you'll hook your fish when it's actually going forward or sliding forward, and with the head towards the direction of the pull. Would it help to put a back hook? We'll talk about that when we're talking about the jigs. But that's it. Okay. So again, just to give you guys a recap, when it comes to choosing rods, it's very easy to overestimate um, what you need. And I think there's a little bit of work that you need to do with, the the kind of fish that you're catching in your area. Very good way is to actually go to the market and see what the locals are catching within the area. If you see a lot of, you'll see the average size of the fish, and you just tailor make, or you could look at the depth. Okay, if they're fishing in less than 200 meters of water, again, it's 300 gram. Okay, so basically what I do is usually I I there's no set rule. There's no set rule for this. Okay, and a lot of people tend to have their own ways of going about it. But for me, when it comes to, especially when it comes to rods, I always look at the depth and then plus 100. Okay, so if I'm fishing like 200 meters, or a fraction thereof, like take for example 175 or something, I round that off to 200, and then plus 100, I have a 300 gram what do you call this, rod. Because see, here's the thing, right? Remember that when you're fishing uh, a slow jig, you have PE2, and that's kind of like, but see, with fast jigs, I'm using twice the diameter. It's thicker. I tend to use PE4 a lot for most of my fast jigging. So for 300 gram, I use PE4. That's kind of like how I I did things. So at 300, let's say I'm fishing at 175. I could put 200, 220, 250. Okay. And if I'm fishing at around 220, it could be that I'm putting uh, 300 grams or even 350. and these rods can still take it. Okay, so a little bit overweight for the maximum is fine, and that's it. It it's it's served me well, and as you could probably have seen in the videos, it's very comfortable. Okay, and very easy to manage even on like this sizable tuna. So when again, just be, be very careful not to um, overestimate. Okay, because guess what? Catching some really big fish, it's not an everyday occurrence. So you need to look for the average and go after that, and then with some skill, you'll able to land those big ones too. Don't go to a maximum 800, maximum 500 gram rod if what you need is really just 300 or 250. Okay, that is it. Alrighty, so if you have questions, you have comments or whatever, just drop them obviously in the comment section below. Hopefully this video clears things up, especially for those that are just starting out. And yeah, for fishing, you get what you pay for, really. Uh, the good thing with fast jigging these days is that there are Chinese rods. Ikuda is just one. There's a host of other brands. I mean, I use an Abu Garcia that is made in China, and it wasn't expensive at all. I think I paid like 300 dirhams for it, so about less than $100. And guess what? It's literally a really good rod for what it is, and it's made in China. Unfortunately, JDM Abu Garcias are not sold in the States. So, but I could recommend those rods. It's amazing how good they are. Anyway, yeah, that's it for this video. If you've learned something, again, let me remind you, give it a thumbs up. Very important for the YouTube algorithm. Comment, very important. Share, obviously, if you want your friends, especially if they're just starting out, you know, sharing this video would help them out immensely. Friends, family, fishing buddies, and all that. Um, thank you very much for those the guys that chose to be members. So membership is very important because it helps channel move forward. And if you want to help this channel move forward, go ahead and click the memberships button. That is it for this video. Thank you very much for hanging out. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed.